I became very, very anxious about my existence. I started to question, what is this life all about?
For the first time in his life, Alex Degen struggled with his identity. For years, he had been confident in who he was, a baseball player. By his senior high school season, Alex captured the attention of some Division I schools, like Rutgers and Kentucky.
My identity was most definitely firmly in baseball. You know, every time I woke up in the morning, I would say the first thought I had is, I'm a good baseball player. This is awesome.
Though he had an excitement for baseball, he found the idea of living for God dull and laughed at friends who attended Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
I was like, just live your life, bro. Like, that's all you gotta do, and just be your own God, live your own truth.
Alex graduated high school and accepted a scholarship to the University of Kentucky.
Outwardly, I was saying, yeah, I'm very humble, but inwardly, I was like, come on. I'm kind of a big deal now. I'm the star of this town. It's a small town. I'm the local boy. I'm doing good for myself.
Alex arrived at the University of Kentucky ready to make a name for himself. However, his perspective on life was about to be drastically changed. So you put your head down, you're going about your business, and then you're approached by some guys. Tell me about that.
Yeah, and they stopped me and they said, hey man, what's going on? What's your name? I said, I'm Alex.
The students shared the gospel with Alex and invited him to a Bible study.
I just kind of was like, what? This is weird. What's happening right now? I was like, let's see what this book of rules has to say.
Alex decided he would study the Bible to prove it wrong.
Every part of me just kept trying to find flaws in it. Every part of me was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out what's true. When what I wanted to be was just hey, I don't really care. I just want to live my life, and I'm gonna die one day. Whatever, who cares?
The more he studied the Bible, the more troubled he became, because it challenged his entire belief system.
I became very, very anxious about my existence. I became just very worried about almost dying. And I became very panicky all the time, and it was not a comfortable experience from that point. And that really lasted for about a month, kind of on and off. I had trouble sleeping, was just brought down to a very low point. And so you can imagine my response to that was, why did I start doing these Bible studies? I was doing fine my whole life, and I started doing this, and now I'm feeling this way. And I continued to reject it, to reject the gospel, because I was I don't want anything to do with this God. If he exists, who's gonna make me feel the way that I'm feeling right now.
So what happened?
So, as anybody would have done, I wanted to start feeling joyful again. And so one night, I was just kind of sitting in my dorm room, and I was just I'm tired of feeling this way. This emptiness, this lostness, this brokenness, this search for purpose.
Alex decided to read the Bible, not as a skeptic, but as if it were true.
I woke up the next morning, and I had felt as good, just mentally, and just I wasn't perfect yet. I wasn't at a point yet where I could say I was better. I was convinced that God was with me and that Jesus truly did die for my sins, but I felt better. And I did it the next night again. I read John 2, John 3, and I kept feeling better. And I was just at that point, I was just kind of chasing a feeling. I was like, okay, there's something to be said about this. There's something in my heart that's happening right now that's digging me out of this hole.
Alex believed the gospel and gave his heart to Jesus.
But how did your life begin to look different?
God broke me down and he emptied me so that I had to rebuild my foundation from the bottom up, but this time not in baseball, not in school, not in family or friends or sports or whatever. I had to build it from the ground up with the firm foundation, with Jesus at the bottom and everything else falling below.
Those around him began to notice a change.
I started finally realizing, hold on, there's something different about this guy.
Kentucky coach Nick Mingione says that Alex has become a great teammate and a servant leader.
A leader is someone who knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. And I think about Alex, and there's no question he's that.
Now in his final season at Kentucky, Alex hopes to become a major league pitcher. However, he knows whatever happens, he has peace with the one who controls it all.
Yeah, to get to the next level in professional baseball, that's been my dream since I was, since I can remember. But at the end of the day, if that doesn't happen, that's not what my identity's in, right? If I don't get picked up by a team, if I don't get drafted, nothing's gonna change, right? Nothing's gonna change about the way God loves me, what Christ did for me.
If you told me in 3 or 4 or 5 years from now he'd be knocking on the door of the big leagues, I'd be like, yep, I can believe it. If you told me he'd be asking me to come speak at his church because he's a pastor, I'm like, yep, I could believe it.
everything changed. Everything changed when Jesus died. And for me, especially now, making these spiritual realizations each and every day and week and month, it's life-changing news. It's not baseball, it's not school. You know, these things are all great. We can use all these things as platforms and do whatever. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Christ and Christ crucified and what that death was and what it stood for and how it responds to that. You know, that one man became sin for all of us so that we no longer have to be condemned by that. But in him, we truly do become the righteousness of God. And that's all that matters.